Okay, we're live, man. So I guess
Yep.
I'll go over kind of what we've been talking about. We'd like to do some more casual streams and have just people pop in and throw out their ideas and uh, start getting this thing going. Because we in our little group of people over the past 9 months, we just started talking to each other and coming up with really cool ideas. And if we increase the frequency of our conversations, who knows what'll happen, you know? And basically, that's the idea behind these.
Yep. Basically, yeah.
Yeah.
That is what the idea is behind these talks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't know. I've kind of looked a bit at like there was one video I saw today about what it's kind of needed is like the Socratic method, and I kind of was thinking about these round table talks. Then when I was like watching that video, and I was just like, it's kind of what we're trying to do, like to actually have talks, and the key in that is that it's that you cooperate with each other to get to something together instead of being always like, no, I am right and you're wrong kind of thing, because it
Yeah.
doesn't really lead anywhere.
Right. Yeah. The debate format or you either have to have a really strong opinion on something or your voice is not heard at all. Yeah, that's just ridiculous to me, and I really hate that vibe. And I don't think people get anywhere doing that at all. It's kind of like you're just watching a fight with words, and I don't know why that's so entertaining, and that's like the primary format of our interactions on the internet. But yeah, I'm not doing that. That's lame.
Yeah, no, yeah, no, it is me either. It's just like it's like the gladiator fights of the modern times. It's like they're all going just like, yes, fight, fight.
Yeah, that's exactly what they're doing. Yeah, they can go on ahead without us. We're gonna do something else.
Yeah, I think so too. It's because I mean, like, I don't see like how it brings yeah, people together in that sense. Like yeah, if you're just fighting each other all the time.
Yeah, I mean it doesn't. I think it's just like it's an ego thing, and I don't think having an ego is like evil or bad anything. It's just an overinflated ego where they're trying to get more
Yeah,
followers. They're trying to get people to be like, "Oh, I agree with you. Oh, I agree with you," and it's just more division. We have a lot more that we agree on than we differ on. Uh, so what's the point of that? It's just for clicks and likes and I don't know the whole algorithm, whatever.
yeah, yeah. No, I do think so. I do think so.
Yeah,
And it's kind of just like I don't know. I don't know. It's just yeah. I don't know. The whole thing is kind of a bit lame.
yeah,
With regards to that, like the continuous fighting and everything. But it's also a bit like yeah. I don't know. It's then yeah, like you said, you kind of like make the differences stand out way more, and you forget about like what actually unites people. I kind of feel like yeah, that's kind of missing, and I don't know, in a way, like we were talking about, like in the Elvis talk that we did a while back. We're talking a bit, or like I mentioned about like how Elvis was that kind of symbol for bringing people together. And I kind of feel like that's really what we need, like different symbols and different ways of like bridging that.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Like yeah, like how Elvis brought all these different groups of people together because he would sing songs from different cultures, and everybody would be like, "Wow, where'd that come from?" Oh, well, those people aren't who I thought they were. That's a pretty good song, and yeah, it was a wonderful bridge through music.
Yeah.
And that's the interesting thing about music. You'll have all kinds of different people that do not agree politically or do not agree philosophically, but they can share the love of a song or a musician or a band, um, and that's amazing. That's there's really something about that.
Yeah, I don't know. It kind of also reminds me of something you had said in one of the live streams like a very long time ago. Maybe it was even the first like the Moment podcast even
Mm-hmm.
that you had mentioned something about like how you were like organizing these different I don't know like parties or I don't know some like events or something
Yeah.
in your surroundings that brought all kinds of different people together.
Yeah, yeah, the house parties.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. All kinds of people would come and show up that um, maybe have never met each other. Maybe they didn't exactly get along or whatever. But for the sake of being social and listening to some music and having some barbecue or something, everybody was pretty civil. Everybody was pretty chill, and yeah, it's extremely important to still have like a watering hole where there's like an armistice where there's a neutral zone, if you will, where people can still get together and just be like, look, we're not going to talk about this, we're not going to talk about that, and we're going to try to have a good time. And I think concerts and festivals are a great place for that. Parties are a great place for that. For some reason, when you're at a party too, people don't want to talk about those things. And if they do, if it does go down there, if it does become a little philosophical, people are really civil. They're just like, well, okay, I'll agree to disagree. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah. Do you want another beer? Like, cool. And then it's just we're kind of done with that because we know that it could turn into a fight, and we're in a social situation. We're all trying to have a good time. We're not trying to have an ego battle because it's kind of like in the back of everybody's head, like somebody's gonna step in and be like, "Look, Buzzkill, like you need to cut this out. What are you doing? Like, this is a party. Maybe you should leave." And nobody wants to be told you should leave. Nobody wants to be disinvited to a party. So yeah, that's a great little hack for human behavior.
Yeah. No, but yeah, I kind of feel like all these different kind of things are in that sense important, but not just in that sense, but also just that people coming together in such ways also kind of allows the other sides, so quote unquote, to actually see that they're just humans basically, and that because it's easy like in these different like polarized sides and all this other stuff going on to really like be like, no, the other side they're completely wicked and evil or whatever, that kind of stuff, and then you kind of are like, well, let's say like reminded of their humanity, of different people.
Yeah, they
It
are.
doesn't get like yeah.
Yeah, because you're right in front of them, and also you're at someone else's house. It's not like your house where you can just be mean. And that's another huge factor. For some reason, when we're on the internet or in Discord, that doesn't happen. Because, it's a digital space or whatever. But, I think that's changing. I've been in a lot of servers lately, thankfully, that have very strong policies on trolls and people just causing trouble. and they'll just kick them out. There's no tolerance for it anymore. It's not funny to people. It's a waste of time, and it's a waste of energy. A thing that I have been seeing though that I think is the next thing to combat is internet gurus, these spiritual gurus. I have been in several of these servers where those people are allowed to hold space, and they just dominate the conversation. They act like they know everything. They'll mommy everybody to death. They'll act like they care a whole lot about people, but really they just won't shut the fuck up, and they just talk and talk and talk and interrupt people because they assert this spiritual authority, quote unquote, that everybody else is dumb, I'm smart, you should listen to me, I'm your leader, everybody can be helped by me. And that's like this narcissism kind of gatekeeping stuff we talked about a while back, and I'm just thoroughly disgusted with that type of vibe. And so what ended up happening is this actually happened last night, and we were texting each other in the text portion of the voice chat, and we were all just like, let's go to another room and talk to each other. And we left, a few people left. It started out with just 2, then 3, then 4. And we ended up having a really productive conversation where each of us would let each other finish our sentences. But something else interesting happened. So we were talking about the cycles of civilization. And, how there's like 4 cycles. And, and one of the only real solutions to a corrupt, bloated society or government is to scatter and leave and go start your own thing somewhere else. And we were just kind of talking about that's what we did with this voice chat thing. There was like 15 people in there, and then we left, and then there was like 4 of us over here. But before I knew it, there were like 10 people in there, and they were all talking over each other and interrupting each other, and it was just as chaotic and hellish as the place we just left. And I thought that was really interesting. Like, wow, that happened fast. I don't know if I have a point to what I'm saying there. I just wanted to tell you about that because I thought it was funny.
Yeah, I don't know. Like maybe it is just that. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's just like that. If it becomes very big or something, or like that people start talking over each other again, or maybe it's just kind of like just knowing, I guess, the proper flow of conversation when in a voice chat, because it's easy to like talk to each other in like text chat, and I guess quite some people are used to that. Like then you can just one says something, other says something, and you can just keep going.
Yeah.
But like it's different when you talk to each other in like voice.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Well, I think most of them were just child-like people. They were just really immature, saying nonsense. They just wanted somebody to hear them. They wanted attention. That's what I was getting. Because I've plenty of times I've been in rooms with a lot of people, like 50 people in a Discord voice chat during like a stream or something, and nobody was like perma-muted or whatever. Everybody had the ability to unmute their mic and speak, but everybody was very courteous and polite and took turns. So it's a matter of the culture of the server. Of the caliber of people in there, definitely. You can have a good culture and society. It's just has to be enforced. People have to be banned. People have to be, thrown out. And I'm starting to see that happen. It's just I think people are deliberating on what they want to allow and what they don't. Because I do think that some servers, enjoy that element of chaos for whatever
Mm-hmm.
reason. I don't. Maybe they enjoy it for the sake of having a lot of people in there, and they want to have a lot of people, and they'd rather have quantity over quality. So that could be a whole other
Maybe,
issue too.
maybe, but yeah, I don't know. But coming back to like the internet gurus and these type of people, I don't know.
Right.
Like I kind of feel like the biggest thing really with that is just to kind of, I don't know, maybe like not take them too seriously, these different kind of figures, and in that sense just remind oneself that they're just humans, no matter like what they make themselves to be in that sense.
Right. Well, that's a hard thing to do because then you have all these other people coming out of the woodwork to white knight them, to defend them, and then you got to fight all these little people that can't
Yeah,
stand up for themselves, but they'll stand up for this guru, like that, like because it becomes their parent. It's like you're attacking mommy or daddy, and they can't tolerate
yeah,
that, and it becomes a real shit show because I've done that before, and some people, that are individuals will be like, yeah, Niram, I see the point of what you're saying. Like, yeah, this is ridiculous. Like, what are these people saying? But and then we'll become friends. So it's worth it to me. But it, I guess that's all that you can get out of it is just find the others that are really annoyed out of that, and then leave and go somewhere else and have a nice conversation while you can.
yeah. I don't know. Maybe in that sense, um, I guess it is for these people that are annoyed at all of these things to actually leave with all of the other people that are also want to leave and then start their own thing.
Yeah.
Away from the rest. I mean, for the other people, it's like, yeah, I mean, if they want to stay there, it's like, I mean, it's their choice in the end. But
Yeah.
for the people that are annoyed at these things, it's like create your own space, or like or find your spaces where, in that sense, then you can have normal conversations
Right.
and actually like yeah. And do that. I don't know. Made me also kind of think about like this, like this idea of like the mycelium network and stuff like that. I think like because I've been thinking about that, like that idea that came up some time ago. I don't know, like it really like this, but even like the round table idea should just be and should be taken as just like an organic thing. It's like everyone can do that, and everyone I think should do that, like to build their own bridges and scatter away from these weird internet gurus and all these other weird types and just build your own little network and then pull all these different like friends and other people together and then start having actual conversations where it's not like a debate and about like who is right and who is wrong. You kind of like try to like find out together like, well, what is it actually like? What's going on, or with something, or like how does something work?
Yeah. Yeah. The whole concept of the round table is we all know what the goal of sitting at the round table is. You even look at the shape of the table. It's round. You know,
Yeah,
nobody's more or less than anybody else. And if somebody starts like being really annoying or a troll, everybody kind of chips in. Is like, this isn't really in the spirit of what we're doing here.
yeah,
You need to cut it out, or we're gonna cut you out. And I think that's the only way that you can get anywhere I see a lot of apprehension in many servers to do that, to just, cut the cord there with some people. Um, and like I said earlier, I think there's this enjoyment of the chaos that they bring at the expense of coherency, at the expense of getting somewhere with your ideas. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it, it it just becomes a degenerated sort of narrative and conversation, like a circus. It's like a circus, um,
Mm-hmm.
and that's just not worth it to me.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. In that sense.
Like
Yeah. I don't know.
it,
You know.
like with 4chan,
Mm-hmm.
people. There's something about that sort of chaos that people want to constantly keep replicating, um, in Discord, and in YouTube, in some of the communities. Just this sort of childish nonsense where a lot of these people are in their 30s and they're still like, I don't know, telling poop jokes. Like, it's just it's what's what are you doing, man? What's the point of that? That sort of line of thinking.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's in that sense, like with that, but also like the debates and other things. It's all. I guess it's just really just about like, well, I mean, why are we actually doing this? It's like, I kind of feel like when it then comes to like, I don't know, something like the round table idea or like similar ideas, like that basically that, well, when actually is trying to like do something like in that sense to actually get somewhere with it. And I think like with the chaos, it's like, well, I mean, I remember from like 4chan, it's like some weird ideas sometimes happen there, and sometimes there's a little bit of like a window where there isn't as much chaos, where they actually get something done, but most of the time it's just pure chaos and doesn't really do much.
Yeah.
In that sense, so it's like, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of potentiality in the chaos, but a lot of potential in there. But the thing is that you need that right balance between like chaos and order to actually have something happen. So that you can allow a little bit of chaos, but so you don't become too rigid.
Right.
Like how some, like, I don't know, I guess like debates or but like all kinds of rules and all kinds of stuff like that. But like, yeah, like if you find that balance, I think that then it actually starts to lead somewhere.
Yeah.
Because then you actually start to actually have these conversations, and I think that's kind of like an important thing to be doing.
Right.
Anyways.
Yeah, when I was in that chat last night, as I said, like a few of us left one chat to go to another one, and we got somewhere with conversation for about an hour or so. But then all these other people come in there, and they were like screaming and yelling over top of each other, like 7 people at once. It just sounded like a schizophrenic episode, and then one girl was like, can we not talk over each other? Like, I can't even understand anything. And all of them at once were like, no, this is more fun this way. No, I really like, wow, this is cool. Like, blah, 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 blah. They were just like reveling in the chaos and having a really good time being obnoxious. And this is a phenomena that I have come across many times over the internet. This enjoyment of screwing up human interaction, and making light of coherent dialogue. just trolling, just being a troll. It's literally what it is, for the sake of being an asshole.
Yeah, I don't know. I've heard like a long time ago something about I think it's like the negative aspect of the animalist that like wants to yell above others and be like "Rah, rah," and go like what you've kind of been describing.
Yeah,
That it's like the negative aspect of that's kind of coming up in an individual. In that sense, I mean, with certain individuals, I mean, I don't know, I can't speak because it's very generalized at what I'm saying here, really. But like for some, maybe it's like maybe a sign of, I don't know, maybe in a very generalized sense, for I guess the culture, it's kind of a need to embody that like masculine, more disciplined side to some degree. So not going too far with that, but like just enough so that you're not like screaming on top of each other.
yeah,
And actually talk coherently. Yeah, but I mean, yeah, I don't know. I have to say like what kind of helped me in that sense is to write my ideas out, to write, and then have to like talk to other people about it, and like have them like give feedback basically, and like refine my thinking that way in that sense, but also at the same time like start to actually have these kind of conversations. But I hope like that maybe I don't know, this kind of thing spreads more instead of like this yelling over each other kind of thing. But I mean, yeah. But that's really all that. I mean, really, in the end, it's up to God, really, to make this kind of thing happen. To this actual like conversation style stuff.
yeah. Just some order within the context of a conversation. Taking turns is like a foreign concept to many people anymore.
Yeah, seems like it.
Yeah. And I get that people are upset about how things are in the world. Um, and I think that's a lot of what's behind that type of behavior. It's a cranky baby. They're upset and they cry, by trolling. I get it, but there's a constructive way out. I think it is rooted in nihilism, because I have taken the chance to really sit down and talk to these people and try to figure them out, and there is an archetype, there is a connective theme between that behavior and their philosophy, and that is hopelessness. They don't have any hope for the future. They don't have any self-worth. And so their goal is to tear down everything, anything and everything, all around them. I just don't know why there's still tolerance for that.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe in some sense it's kind of like maybe in some degree also connected to like the negative side of the trickster energy when talking about like the trolls and or certain trolls at least, and and certain I guess individuals, but maybe not really in a conscious way really, but probably more of an unconscious thing. But I mean, in that sense, it would make sense. I'm looking at the culture and society, like how it is, that there would be this like trickster kind of rebellion against that, because it has become very rigid in that sense. So like I can understand that, and and it does feel very hopeless. But the thing is that I don't know. It's kind of also, well, is it really that hopeless? Well, I mean, if you think like it's just a little ego me that has to do everything basically to change the entire structure, it can feel really really hopeless. But the thing is that it isn't. There's plenty of people out there, and all it needs is something like this to actually have conversations, to actually get somewhere, and actually formulate well some form of coherent plan that leads to something, not something like you said, Naira, in one talk, to like the Joker and that weird shit, but something outside the city, something that's connected to life in that sense.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Why doesn't the Joker leave the city? You know, if he has such a problem with how the city's run and what's going on, why doesn't he take Harley Quinn and go start a farm somewhere? You know, that would be a great solution rather than the resentment, the trolling, and the general chaos that ensues from, you know, his actions. It,
Yeah.
and the reason is the joke why the Joker doesn't do that is he doesn't want a future. He doesn't want a family. He doesn't really love Harley Quinn. You know, he doesn't really want to do any of this type of thing. Um, he's a dead end. But he's like
Yeah.
a hero to so many people. And I think that's very telling of what sort of archetype people are embodying. It's a sick one. It's not a good sign.
Yeah.
They don't want to work for their future. They don't want to go towards anything. Maybe they feel like it'll
Mhm.
just get taken away from them anyway. It's not. That's not true. You know, it hasn't been done so far, and there's a lot of other people that would rally around
True.
you and defend you. You would all defend each other. All these other kingdoms, these farmers and everybody, that's exactly what they're doing over in Europe. They're all coming together. They're all helping each other out. It's not a hopeless game. It's not a hopeless endeavor.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of like, yeah, gets lost in all of this, in this all of this like hopelessness, and that they see the dark but they cannot see the light. Reminds me of like an old quote: if you search for the light, you can often find it, but if you look for the dark, that is all you will ever see.
Yeah. Yes.
And that's kind of the thing. And I kind of feel with that also, that like news, but also like all these debates and a lot of other stuff that's kind of going on is becoming quite a big distraction from life itself.
Yeah.
There needs to be like a balance between that. I mean, like, yes, of course you can like watch something, but there needs to be a balance with that, especially now with like how much it is like lopsided towards everything that's dark, so that you actually take time to see what is actually the light here. What are the good things, and try to like search for those things,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
otherwise, this it would really really seem hopeless. And I don't know. I've heard from like quite a few different channels. Like it was for Kaiki, and but also Young to Live By, and I don't know, some other channels too. We were talking also about like the zombie, and like how that's like a cultural thing, and there's people like dreaming about being chased by zombies, and there's that kind of fear, and then the zombie kind of meaning like the unlived life and kind of not being connected to one's full potential in that sense, but also really connected to life. And I kind of feel like the Joker like archetype is kind of like an attempt at a rebellion against that, but one fueled by resentment and just hopelessness, because they don't know what to do. They don't know how to, I guess, go from this zombie state to something that's actually life again, to find the cure, which in that sense really is, well, I mean, you have to like find your way back to what does a human being mean in like an instinctual way, but also kind of maybe beyond. It's like, what is our place in the world? And like in that sense, I mean, for me personally, it would be like, well, we're part of I would say like the world itself, the ecosystem, the biosphere, and really the in a way like grander network of life really. And I think that's one big thing that would benefit a lot of people to reconnect with that. And I think that's kind of why we also said about like the rural areas and like the farmers and stuff like that, because they're more connected to that than let's say your average person in the city that doesn't really go to nature or knows that much about it really, not from like experience. They might see things, but I think we have to start like experiencing these things again.
Yeah, that's the thing about people that live in nature. They are a lot more chill and understanding and patient. The people in the city are the people that are the problem. You know, we were talking about this last night as well before the chat went to shit. Thomas Jefferson talked about this a lot, that cities are basically poison, and we have to be very careful about how we create our cities here in America. And because inevitably the cities destroy every civilization that has ever existed, and the country is the only thing that remains. The farmers, the people that live in harmony with nature, they're the only people that ever make it, and they're the only people that kind of restart the city and the civilization, and then we just have this cycle that repeats and repeats and repeats. I can't remember what he exactly said. I guess it's worth looking up and saying that quote.
Yeah, probably, yeah. Yeah. I don't know, I guess that's one thing we can learn from that. It's kind of like, maybe we need to like connect the cities to nature more, maybe like integrate that more into it somehow, that it's more connected.
I don't know about that. Here's what I think. I think cities should be a temporary place that human beings go. I think cities are beneficial when you're younger, but after you reach a certain age, it should be mandatory that you leave. You have to get out. It's time for you to go to the country, because it starts to kill your soul, man. Like, it starts to destroy your humanity. You know, after you go learn whatever you need to learn, you intermingle with all these different people and cultures, see all this art, see all these different businesses and stuff happening. It's time for the next stage of your life. Go have a family. And cities are terrible for families. Cities are terrible for children. Cities are good for people in their 20s, you know. But once you start getting into your 30s and stuff, and it's time for you to be, you know, having some kids, and then you get into your 40s and your 50s, like, you're just an asshole. Like, you're a mean motherfucker if you've been in the city that long. And you see other human beings like cockroaches that are in your way, and if you could step on them, you would in the subway. You would step on them. You kind of have this mentality like, everybody's an insect and they're a nuisance and get out of my way. I know. I've been to cities. I grew up in a city when I was a kid, and I'll never go back to live in a city. I don't even like going if I have to do something out there. I don't like going. It sucks.
Yeah, no, it really does. Maybe in that sense, it's like maybe cities should just be like universities can be there, and like people can go there to campus and stuff, and they can live there for a while, and then go away, and maybe all these like mega farms can be they should be broken up, really.
Yeah.
And maybe like people can there can be more farmers and like little villages. I kind of feel like that should be the future, like smaller villages, not these like mega cities.
No, they're retarded. They're crazy, and they don't make good people. They just don't. They don't make smarter people. They don't make more moral people. They don't have a future. Cities have never, ever had a future. The country is what has the future. You know, like, great. Rome invented concrete and aqueducts. Who beat them? A bunch of pagans. A bunch of pagan farmers that live out in the woods. They defeated one of the greatest empires that has ever existed on the face of this earth. Farmers.
Basically, yeah.
And I think that's worth thinking about. You know, city people think they're so much better, they're so much more intelligent. Okay. How do you grow a tomato? How do you do that, Mr. Smarty Pants? Oh, you don't know? Oh, you pay somebody to do that. Oh, okay. Oh, a truck brings it into you. Oh, okay. Oh, you know.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's just, it's ridiculous to me.
No, in that sense, with all of these things, I mean, with Rome, from what I also recall, it's also partly because that it was overstretched with everything. They needed like a lot of grain deliveries from, I think it was Egypt, and there were like problems from that, and then all kinds of other like kind of like, I guess, infrastructure problems. Really,
Yes.
It became so complex that didn't work anymore. And then, like you said, the barbarians, they are really the farmers. In that sense, they could just block things off, and things would go basically very bad.
Yeah.
And but in that sense, I think like actually one big thing regarding like the whole like with cities really and city people, I also feel like one big reason why they become like that is, I mean, just imagine if you lock a whole bunch of people in a tiny space versus there's a lot of space for people. Obviously, the people in who have way less space are gonna be, well, not so happy. because it's very stressful to be in that kind of environment for a very, very long time. And of course you would be like, you fucking cockroach, and would go all like that. But the thing is that I don't know, maybe that's kind of like the thing that kind of needs to be tackled, so that the spaces are not that stressful. And maybe the solution is, like you said, that maybe people shouldn't be there that long. Maybe cities should be more like, yeah, the people under 20 or something are there. Maybe you work there, but you shouldn't live there.
Right.
Kind of thing.
Yeah.
So that you can like yeah, so I can like tolerate it better instead of like just being there. I mean, even though there are people that say that though that like, you know, that I don't know, they're loving it or something. I mean, I don't know. I guess to some degree it's, I guess, also their choice. But I mean, I do think that what one can say is that if you're in a city and you're like, get out of my way, you little insect, or whatever kind of weird stuff like that, or whatever you kind of say, and you're just all basically just angry all the time. Something I recently learned, thanks to Lynn, who, well, she's in here, but she had posted something interesting in the server about like anger and how it's connected to boundaries. I kind of feel like that applies here to that. Maybe it's really just, there's just not enough boundary space for all these individuals, and it makes them fucking angry. Yeah. They're not really connected to that like that instinct in the sense of like what it actually means. It's like, yes, you don't have enough space. Yeah, you're in an overcrowded city. That's kind of why. And maybe like that means that something needs to be done with that, or maybe it means you as an individual have to move somewhere else, like maybe like the more the outskirts of the city, or even outside.
I don't know. I still think that there's a problem with living out on the outskirts in the suburbs. They're not happy either, because they're stuck in these cookie cutter houses, squished in very close to each other. They don't have a big yard because you got to fit more people in there that are going to go to work into the city the next day. Yeah. I really think people need to have land, and they need to work the land, and they need to be a part of it, and they need to have dirt underneath their fingernails in order to have a sustainable future. You know, all this bullshit about robots and we're going to eat bugs and you can download your mind into some kind of AI mainframe, that's not going to work. We'll effectively stop being human beings, and I don't think that's a good thing. There's still a lot of very mysterious things about humanity, who and what we are, and you want to trade that in for a man-made construct, for something that is understood, for something that has no mystery. That will effectively end our story. It'll be over. And I know there'll be plenty of people that won't do it, you know, like me and you. We're not going to do that. We love nature.
Yeah.
I love being a human being, and working through my problems and becoming a better person every day. I appreciate that, and I think there's something sacred about that. But the city people, they're just pushing and pushing this robot bullshit, and hate farmers, and there's this whole war on farming now, and higher food prices, and everybody needs to eat these substitutes, this Beyond Meat that they're trying to push and sell in the grocery stores.
That kind of stuff. Like, no, I don't. No, I don't touch that stuff. Or like, the only time the only stuff that I really touch is if it's like just made from like beans or something,
Right.
or like anything like that's actually natural. But if it's like soy or like other weird stuff like that, I'm like, no, I'm not touching that stuff. It's like, nope, no, thank you,
So,
not having it.
yeah, exactly. So I want to circle back to Thomas Jefferson. I found a little bit of some quotes and information about that. Jefferson's anti-city arguments are several, but one stands out. Cities offer an unnatural overcrowding of citizens, and where there is overcrowding and land is wanting, the spirit of commerce and attention to making money trumps the desire for liberty and for living off the land. In Query 27 of his notes on the state of Virginia, Jefferson assumes an atypical somber tone. And I quote, "From the conclusion of this war, we shall be going downhill." End quote. The people and their rights will be forgotten. And he goes on, quote, "They will forget themselves, but in the sole faculty of making money, and will never think of uniting to the effect due respect for their rights." Are Jefferson's views on the evils of urban living applicable today? It's a whole article. But yeah. They will never think of uniting to effect a due respect for their rights. And that's what's happening. A lot of city people don't give a shit about their rights. They favor safety over freedom. And that's another one of his famous quotes.
Yeah.
If you value safety over freedom, you deserve neither.
In that sense, it's like, yeah, kind of what we're saying is kind of what he's been saying a very long time ago. And we're like, yeah, kind of like seeing that now, like, yeah, that's kind of the thing. But I don't know, in that regard, like, I guess maybe the way forward is for people to start growing their own food and having their own land. I mean, there is a lot of things like that kind of happening in like the whole like permaculture community.
Oh yeah.
I mean, even like some that are like starting out in cities first. Some of them like having the idea like, you know, to later then get land. I know one channel that started out like as an urban farmer, and now he's actually like in like a rural area, and he actually has like a plot of land, space to live. But yeah, it's kind of the same idea like what I'm like. Or like that's kind of the idea that I'm going after, anyways.
Yeah. Now, with all of this said, I do want us to have, you know, a future with technology. I do think it's important for human beings to explore space, to go to other worlds, but we can't throw our traditions out. We can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. You know, and, you know, quite literally that's what we're doing. People don't want to have families anymore because they want to have a career instead. They're very self-centered. They say that they're, you know, doing it for the environment and humanity's a cancer and it's the best thing that we can do. The best thing that we can do is reform cities. Change the way that we use them. Make it the priority to make to try to bolster the human spirit instead of break it down for the sake of progress, quote unquote progress. It's not progress if we keep destroying ourselves and we keep having these repeating cycles. I like how the Chinese and all of their dynasties that they recorded, they really outlined it as there's 4 steps to civilization. There to these cycles. You have the warrior phase, where you got these different tribes fighting each other. Then you have the exploration phase, which then people start interacting with people peacefully and quit fighting so much. And then people start farming and trading their different items that they create. Then that's the merchant phase. And that's where we're the most prosperous. That's where everything's going really well. Where cities have just kind of formed, port cities, boats, people are trading, everybody's making a lot of money. And then the government comes in and gets really powerful, and that's the tyrannical phase, where taxes go sky high, all of this red tape, all of these rules, all of these laws, people aren't rich anymore, people become enslaved to the system, and then people have enough of it. They kill all of the tyrants, and they become warriors all over again, separated in their different tribes. And then they explore and become merchants, and then there's the tyrants again. And that's what we see with the Chinese dynasties. The Chinese did a wonderful job of keeping one of the longest records of human behavior, of human civilizations, and I think they get it. And that's probably why they're pretty good at long-term thinking instead of short-term.
Yeah, even though I don't know if like the current Chinese government is really like taking that into account, because people are in certain parts, from what I'm aware, are slowly getting more unhappy with the government there.
Yeah, the whole one-child policy really shot themselves in the foot with that, because now they have a problem with that. Their future is in question because there's not enough women to marry, and there's too many men because they were, killing all of their daughters. They preferred to have a son instead because of cultural reasons, like the man can carry on the name, and people didn't really think about keeping some women around. So it's a problem.
Yeah, no, it is. It is. It really, really is. In theory, it was like, it wouldn't be like a good idea, but it turns out that it actually was not. Maybe they should have done a 2-child policy.
Yeah.
Maybe that would have worked.
Right. Oh well. They've made another mistake. This dynasty, if you will, is not going to make it.
In the long run, I don't think that there's any dynasty that can make it forever.
No.
Not truly. Not in its same form, in that sense. And I kind of feel like this is kind of what's going on. In some sense, now, I don't know, like, kind of now we already have, like, tribes fighting each other. It's like, it's not that coherent anymore. It's like, there is, like, some sense of, like, I guess, like, government is trying to, like, cling on to things, but I kind of feel like there's, like, more and more kind of, like, breaking apart kind of in these different parties, and really becoming more and more tribal in that sense. And at the same time, I do feel like there's at the same time kind of already something starting with like these permaculture people that are trying to like get land and start to farm, and then also like people starting to actually talk to each other, because there are different like places that also do that, like actually have conversations. I remember like the Stoics one, from what I remember.
That's a good
podcast
podcast.
That does something similar, and there's some other places too. But I don't know, I kind of feel like some of the other phases are kind of already starting, but maybe like I don't know, like we're more or like well, most people are still fighting in the tribal like warrior phase, because I kind of feel like that's kind of like happening with different people. Makes me kind of think about Uberboy and all these other YouTubers that are out there that are trying to like make their followers into like warriors and stuff like that.
Right.
Kind of thing. Anyways, but kind of feel like that's going on, and in the meantime, there's like people already like thinking more long term towards like the other phases. Basically, I kind of feel like we're in that sense laying the groundwork for kind of that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, those things are not going to last. And those communities quickly break apart because that's not what human beings in our heart of hearts are looking for.
Yeah.
On the topic of civilization, I'd like to bring up Egypt, and also some of the other cities like in Thailand. These ancient structures. The cities used to be spiritual meccas that people could go to and share and exchange information and also trade.
Yeah.
Egypt was one of the longest running civilizations, longer running than Rome and Greece.
Yeah.
Because they were very connected with their religion, with their spirituality. I think there's something to that. I think there's a whole lot to that, actually, that needs to be rediscovered. Right now, cities are atheistic, devoid of spirit. They're not really in tune with nature or anything else. And I believe that these cities, once upon a time, were. And you also have the dark side of that, like the Aztecs. And during the eclipse, they will cut someone's heart out and throw their dead body down the steps and have the pyramid run with blood. Like, they didn't last. You know, as soon as Hernan Cortez came over, all of the other tribes were like, yeah, we're going to go with you, and we're going to help you take down these people. And he did.
Yeah.
And that's why all of Central America in Mexico mostly speaks Spanish now. You know, the Aztecs used to dominate that entire area until the conquistadors came through and saw these people doing this horrible stuff to people, and all of the surrounding tribes were not on board with that. They were not united. They were enslaved. They were oppressed.
Yeah, it's kind of like I read that, like, funnily enough today, something about that they basically built their entire empire on needing to constantly conquer and enslave more people, and that's why like even if the Spanish wouldn't have come, their empire would have run out of fuel, so to speak, because it would just overextend itself. Because those kind of empires just don't really work. And I kind of feel like there's a big difference with Egypt in that sense. Like, I don't really feel like Egypt was built on that. I don't feel like Egypt was something built on that kind of like conquering spirit. Like Rome was, for instance, but Egypt wasn't.
Yeah,
Egypt. Yeah, it's different.
Yeah, they debunked all of that slavery stuff with the pyramids in Egypt. They found the graves and found out they were very well fed and buried in an honorable way. Yeah, all that stuff was debunked because that's what people were saying for a long time. Like, there's no way they could have built this unless they had slaves. No, they had thousands of people participating and working together to build that city. But hey, is Lynn on here?
I don't know if Lynn is here. I don't know if she's in the room.
Oh, Well,
And check.
hang on just a minute. I needed to take my dog out real quick. But because she's gonna start barking here in a second, and but I'll be right back.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds good. But yeah, for those listening, there's just one thing that I kind of also want to say that, well, there is something also with in that sense. I think I did go back to Tepe and also Catalhuyuk, but also in Malta, there's these temple structures, and they're like megalithic structures, and they're similarly made by just a whole bunch of people, a whole bunch of I mean, with some of them, a whole bunch of hunter-gatherers. They would just come together and build them for their own sake, because they're like spiritual centers where they would gather to perform these different rituals, so that it makes it a different space. Or like now it's in that sense different. You know, in that sense, I guess people can't wrap their head around that. But I mean, we used to do that too, with like cathedrals and different buildings like that. Anyways, but yeah.
All right, I'm back.
Okay. Awesome.
So yeah, we were talking about Egypt and their spirituality that kind of preserved their civilization for a lot longer, until they kind of forgot about it, I suppose, or quit respecting it.
Hmm. Yeah, I guess that's kind of like I guess the key with that. I mean, even like Rome had like a balance between two different. I mean, they didn't have just Mars. They also had Quirinus and some other like deities that would connect them more like to, I guess, the land.
Right.
And but it became more like focused on like something else, more Mars really for a long time.
Yeah.
But then it lost this. It became about that, and then it started to like lose that kind of connection.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like that connection to nature is just so important. And I kind of all up with Egypt, like a lot of these were, in that sense, anthropomorphic figures connected to like, I would say there's like an animistic base to that for sure with these figures.
Right.
And I think that there's like well, a big lesson in that sense.
Yeah.
That we can learn from that. Maybe, yeah. I haven't really looked that deeply into like the rituals of Egypt and different things like that. But there probably for sure is something in there that's important that we can learn from, like why they kind of succeeded in that sense, where I guess yeah, others did not.
I think it has a lot to do with like the Romans and some of the other civilizations gave into their animal instincts. Like the Romans had orgies and blood sports. Like they would all gather together and watch everybody kill each other or feed Christians to lions and cheer. The Aztecs, they loved watching people get their heart cut out and thrown down a set of stairs. The Egyptians didn't do that. You know, they didn't have big, massive orgies, and they didn't kill people and watch and cheer. They had like mystery schools. They did psychedelics. And I know the Aztecs did psychedelics while they murdered people, but they were very much in line with some dark forces there. And I do believe that the Egyptians were reaching for the light, and they were reaching for understanding, and they were trying to get along and build something great together. They were really proud of their monuments, of their pyramids, and it was a place that people could come from all over to see and trade with them and learn things. It was a totally different vibe from a lot of the other civilizations that were out there.
Yeah.
They knew that their base instincts were, I mean, it served a purpose and there was a time and place for it, but that time and the place was not in the mainstream. You know, the mainstream belonged to a higher form of consciousness and a better way of doing things.
Yeah, and I think in that sense, maybe it is like their anthropomorphic like deities that they had. Maybe like it is like the connection to like animism, but also like these mystery schools that it's kind of like allowed them to, I guess, be more, I guess, connected and more, I don't know, I guess like grounded in that sense, that in an instinctual level too, that like they're not like swept away by their instincts that easily, like they are like, they don't suppress, I wouldn't say suppress them, but it seems like that's kind of the key in that, like they
channeled
like,
them. I think they channeled them into constructive
Yeah.
way, like building stuff, their masonry. They had something to do with themselves that they participated in on a massive scale that they were proud of, and they got rewarded for participating in it. They weren't punished. They were given really good food, good clothing, good housing. It was good for their family if they participated in the construction of monuments. And what's interesting is how they chose their pharaoh, because they still had like a king. They still had their power concentrated in one spot, but I think it was unique in the way they went about choosing who the pharaoh was, because they didn't really care what your bloodline is. They cared about who are you and what do you stand for, and what do you see when you do the blue water lily? What kind of wisdom do you hold? Are you a wise pharaoh? Can we trust you? Because this dude was going to be in there for his whole life, or this woman like Cleopatra. Like, what are your intentions here with us? Because they were well aware that a rebellion could take place, that people would not be all right with it if you're doing this thing or that thing, because they did have some bad pharaohs and it did not go well. And they went around like defacing older pharaohs, wanting to say that they're the best and the greatest pharaoh ever. Let's forget about all these other dudes and hammer their faces off their statues.
Mm-hmm.
But compared to a lot of other civilizations, I think that they lasted the longest, and they kept their traditions the longest, and really got somewhere with their ideas. And they literally carved them in the stone for the rest of us to decipher later on through time.
Yeah, there are plenty of like these like different like important deities that they had them all the way up to till like Christianity came into Egypt. That they had these old deities that they had from all the way back from the beginning. That's like how long they kept that going and kept that alive. I think that in of itself is rather amazing.
Yeah.
They kept that going for so long. And I think that's really key in that regard with Egypt.
Yeah. Yeah, they made it for a long time until Islam came in and kind of took over all of Egypt, and because that's who's there now. I don't know how many original Egyptians are still there, or how many of them converted to Islam away from the Egyptian belief system. But I do know at a certain point that Islam came and swept through there and just took them right over and deconstructed their monuments and their pyramids to create Cairo.
Yeah.
There was a no longer a reverence or respect for those cities and those monuments, because they switched religions and people, and they just totally destroyed the whole thing for the sake of another type of city, not a spiritual one.
I don't know. In that sense, maybe like there needs to be more like because there's a different model used in now there than exactly in the past. Maybe like there is something about that, about like bringing that back. Maybe some key in that also kind of is just that these cities are maybe also more how to I don't know, maybe maybe it was like less focused on like on just making money or like maybe living there. Maybe it was just more like yeah, I don't know. Maybe it was like yeah, like more multi-faceted in that sense than just like focused on one or the other thing. Where now we kind of don't have that, or like kind of have just like, well, I mean, um, malls basically,
Yeah.
and other big stores are kind of like the big things in cities now.
So, just a little bit of history. I looked it up. The Muslim conquest of Egypt took place between 639 and 646
Mm-hmm.
AD. And they actually took it over from the Romans because the Romans took over Egypt in, let's see, Rome's annexation of the Ptolemaic kingdom in 30 BC. So the Romans took it over in 30 BC and they lost it in 641 to Islam. So back in 30 BC, the Egyptians actually lost it all
Yeah.
to the Romans. So it's been longer than I thought that they really were gone, that they were conquered, and it was Rome that did it.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. Anyway, I thought that was worth mentioning.
I think it is. I think it is. But yeah. Thinking of maybe like I don't know, maybe ending the live stream for now.
Yeah, man. Yeah, this is a great one. I really enjoyed it.
Same. Same.
Right on. Well, thanks to everybody for listening, and we'll be back to do some more. And if anybody
Oh
has
yeah, for sure.
anything they want to say or they want to jump in uh, and have something to say, go for it. All right, man.